to Leading Through with Billy Island. I'm so grateful of the person I have with me, the guest. I don't even know if I can call him a guest. He's family. Man, I've been knowing him since 2007. Very, very good friend of mine. And you know what? I don't really even think I can even introduce this guy. He's just so amazing. He's been doing a work for the Lord for right at 18 years. And he's helping people that are suffering from drug addiction, alcoholism, homelessness, any person that he can come in contact with. He wants to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. He's been in Chicago since 2017, planted a recovery center, a church, a recovery center for men, for women. And you know, he's been married for 3 years. I think that's your biggest accomplishment, is your wife, Megan.
That's the biggest accomplishment. I hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
I hit the jackpot. That's my biggest accomplishment. Like now seeing, being married, but being in ministry, serving God, but then I'm like, you know what, being a husband to my wife, that's like the biggest accomplishment, you know, because I'm setting up for my future, you know what I mean? I believe that as a man, you know, when I was single, it was ministry, but now as a married person, I'm like, it's her, it's my family.
So
you know
good,
yeah.
So good. And I got the privilege and honor to meet her, and you guys really complement one another in a great, great way. Had an opportunity, me and my bride, Helena, to go out to Chicago some time back, and we had such a great time with you, and it was very, very life-giving. I want to thank you for all your hard work. And we talk about leadership here. We talk about keeping it real, because keeping it real can actually seal the deal. Authenticity and being genuine as a leader means the world. Is there anything else you want to tell us about yourself before we dive into a few questions and some thoughts?
Well, just something that came to me quickly is that being around you more and more, right? The conversations, rubbing elbows, coming to Chicago, us going to Denver, then we went to Abilene. I'm like, man, I see myself going further. Like, you know, just the talks, the information, the things that we talked about, it has taken me to another level in a short amount of time. I just want to let you know that, like the leadership that God dropped on you, even this podcast, it's a game changer. It's a boss move.
Well, I must say that me and my wife both said when we was in Chicago, this is one of the most life-giving relationships I've had in some time. It's been so amazing connecting with you and Megan. I just really, really am grateful for what God has in store for us. And man, I got a question. It's kind of crazy, but I think that you're the one that could answer this and give us some insight on this. What do you think are some essentials leaders should all have? Like if you're a leader, what is an essential, like a downright, you know, you need this or you're not really gonna be a leader at all?
That's a good question. And when you told me that I was going to be in the leadership podcast, I was like, you know, I was excited. I'm like, dang, I made it. You know, like I actually got to, you know, because you're good. You're a tremendous leader, and you know, people can see that a mile away. One of the things that God dropped on me is that you have to be able to face yourself. You have to be able to overcome some of the evil or some of the things that will prevent you from becoming a better person. I think facing yourself and confronting some things that need to be confronted inwardly before outwardly you have influence, you know, yeah, that was the first thing that dropped on me, because if I have information but I have never dealt with myself, then what use is that? You know what I mean?
My gosh.
So, yeah.
Oh my God. I kind of like want to dive a little deeper on it, because it seems as if, to me, that you've had firsthand experience with this personally. I mean, the way you said that, it sounds so sincere that it seems like you can you talk about that a little bit more?
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the things is I thank God, because you let your hair down, and I believe you let your hair down with me. You was, hey, Joe, and you start coaching me on some things. And I'm like, and it forces me to take a look in the mirror and say, you know what? Why am I like that? Where is that thinking coming from? And where is that thinking going to take me? And what has it got me thus far?
Wow.
And I'm like, dang, you know what? You're right. Where did it come from? And answering genuinely with no filter, no matter what it's going to cost me, if I'm going to look bad or if I'm going to sound bad at the expense of my own pride. I'm like, this is my answer, because I need honest feedback to become better. Wow. Now that has taken me far, like being a student. You know what I mean? And staying a student, remaining a student. And when somebody's ahead of you, that answering the questions and the feedback they give you, don't get mad. The rebuke or the correction is not to embarrass you, it's to uplift you, it's to take you to another level.
Wow.
And so that has kind of helped me. You know, I go to places and I become a student. I'm like, what can I learn from here? Because I'm here, I might as well take notes. Mental notes or little iPad and iPhone notes and keep it so that way I can better service a healthy life with me, with God, and with the people that I service.
My God, that's so good. That's a mouthful and is so much to unpack. When you say that the questions that are asked you, you come back with a sincere answer. I mean, that authenticity and that vulnerability, I think that is the growth and that is the leadership. That's freedom, right? Have you found yourself challenged? Because I know for me, I've been challenged where it seems like, oh my God, this question that's being asked, I don't know if I really want to dig that deep and be that transparent, because I've always heard from a great guy that we probably all learned from, Craig Rochelle. He says, everything you say should be true, but everything true should not be said. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, man, should I actually say this?
I believe that it's with the people that can help you go the furthest.
Oh my.
It's with people that really care, and they're not gonna hold, like, you can make a mistake with me and I'm like, oh, Billy, oh my goodness. And no, it was a genuine mistake. It probably caught you off guard, whatever, and move on, because I know the relationship that we have as brothers. I know that. So if questions asked from this relationship, it's like a no-brainer. Like, hey,
right.
It's a safety zone right here.
Yes.
Like, this.
So you need a safe space, right?
Exactly.
Gosh, that's good. Because, yeah, if you go run around telling your business to everyone don't have your best interests at heart. And aren't you just so grateful for, just authentic relationships, authentic, people that come in your life and people that actually make you better? Because I'm gonna be honest, man, you make me better. You do, and it's a mutual. It's not a road. It's not a one-way street. You really took out time, man, and had me really, really thinking about my life, man, after you sit down and talk to me. I don't know if you remember the talk, but you had a talk and you waited until the last day in Chicago. It's like me and Elena both looked like, sheesh, this guy waited till the last day. You couldn't tell me that the first day. The last day you really spoke into my life, and man, it meant the world to me. And and I think that cemented some things in my life and definitely in our relationship. And if you think about it in leadership, what would you say have been some things that you springboarded off of?
One is what Pastor Gerald used to say, this was our pastor, and he said, if you can't recognize the devil in yourself, you won't be able to recognize the devil in somebody else. But I took that a step further, and I said, if I can't recognize the devil or the evil in me, how can I recognize it in the church that I serve? How can I recognize it in the disciples that I'm trying to lead? How can I be able to do that? So it really starts with me. And the biggest challenge in Chicago wasn't trying to build this humongous ministry. It was trying to build the minister before I build the ministry. And it was an inward work that had to take place. And it was like even the season of lowliness, even the season of stretching, the season of I want to accomplish some goals and accomplish and make this thing big and huge. Because when God wants growth, and we do too. I believe that's the characteristic, especially every leader, they want growth.
Absolutely.
And I was like, you know what? I need to expose some of this. Why do I want to be so big? What's the angle there? What is it so important? Does that place a value as me as a man, or my pastoralship, or my leadership?
Oh, my.
And I had to dig down and I'm like, you know what? And God had to do some internal work, and some of these little pride issues and some of these ego things and some of these things that, to make me question, why do I really want to do this? And do I really want to be Facebook famous? Do I really want to go other places where you can't really enjoy yourself when you're at, you have all these people crowded around you? Because I know how that is too. And I'm like, it's just an inward work. And I always go back to that. If you can't recognize the devil in you, how can you recognize the devil in somebody else?
That is so good. I mean, and you can springboard off of that for your personal life, for marriage, for parenting? What is your motive? Why do I want to do this really? And when you're asked that really, it gets down to the core motive of why you're doing what you're doing. That's so good. You can take that anywhere, business, ministry, anything.
And it's easy to answer, and it's genuine too. Yeah, don't get me wrong, you gotta be sharp about it, but it's genuine. It's like you asked me, I remember I was, well, Joe, why do you want to become a pastor in Chicago? You asked me on a train on the way back to the airport. You're like, yeah, well, why is that? Is it because it's something that we got taught? Is it something that is automatically you're supposed to do? And I remember it just, without even me thinking,
it flowed.
It just flowed. Like, I believe I have the ability to help people have a genuine relationship with God and go to another level, where after they hang around me, I believe that they'll be able to lead, they'll be able to help, they'll be able to administer healing, or they'll be able to heal some situations because they grew around being around our church, around our teachings, around, things that we have learned.
Yes.
And it just came out. It's not a stage because it comes with responsibility. It comes with a cost, And
yeah, the stage is like maybe 5% of what we do, right? I mean, the night calls, the counseling, the heartache, the praying, the challenges, through turbulent times, and still not only leading yourself, but leading others. And when you said that, JoJo, his name is Jose Gonzalez, but I know him as JoJo. So Pastor JoJo, this is my brother. But JoJo, when you said it, it was so sincere. It was so clear that God had given you the calling. And remember, I remember this at infant stage, 2007. You talking about, man, I'm gonna go to Chicago and I'm gonna help people out there. I'm gonna go open up a location. I'm gonna help people. I remember that from 2007. And so fast forward 10 years later, when you're there in 2017, now you've been in there in that city for 6 years and really make an impact. Just shout out to Ignite, City Church. Shout out to their recovery center, discipleship, Ignite. In Chicago, if you're there, you gotta go check it out. They just now are about to close on an amazing building in East Chicago. I'm so happy for him, Megan, the movement there at Ignite. God bless you guys. But when you said what you said, it was obvious that it was a sincere passion within you. How do you continue to nurture that? How do you continue to throw logs on that? Because from 2007 to 2017, you were on pause. As a leader, what do you do when God says, wait? What'd you do in those 10 years?
I believe I heard something a long time ago. It's called waiting well. Wait, but you gotta wait well.
Oh my.
And so during that waiting stage, I also knew it was the process, and I just believed that God was not going to leave me hanging. I believed that when he told me about opening up in Chicago, I really believed him. I took him at his word.
Yes.
And every time we held Bible studies and preachings and I read the Bible, it was always geared toward the vision. I'm gonna need this for Chicago. Every time I seen when I was seeing you disciple the guys, I would be like, I have to pick up on some of those principles because I'm gonna use that in Chicago. That was always, every time I learned something, it would feed the vision, it will feed the dream, and it will feed that I'm gonna have to use this in Chicago. So I never lost it. And it became bigger and bigger. And there was a point where it was a defining moment, where I'm like, God, you know what? I've been here for a long time. I think it was 6 or 7 years into it. I'm like, you know what, God, I don't know if you really want me in Chicago. Maybe because it was set up logistically where I couldn't go, right? So I'm like, maybe that wasn't it, God. Maybe it was a link in the chain to get me here, but maybe you want to let me go to a different direction. So I really asked God, God, if you want me to go to Chicago, can you do this? And if you don't want me to go to Chicago, then open that up, because I'm not going to give my whole heart to this direction or that direction. I really want you to open something up just to show me, God, because if nothing happens, I'm gonna probably go in this direction. So, I see it, and I don't want to dismiss all that dream and all this stuff you fed me, because I feel this way and I want to go this way. So, God, can you do something to show me, and can you make it so clear that I won't miss it,
Yes.
And God, I'm telling you, he shut down that door. He bulldozed that door down to let me know, nah, Joe, this is where I want you to go.
Wow. The waiting pattern. That's what they call it when you're in the holding pattern. You're waiting. That, when you're in the air, the waiting pattern. God has you in pause, but you got to work while you're waiting. It sounds like you were working while you're waiting.
Yeah, and the attitude, you got to do it well. Like, I had to serve my pastor well. I had to serve the ministry that I was getting trained in well. And I had to do it as unto the Lord. And I had to do it like it was my ministry.
Absolutely.
And I believe that opened up the door where God said, how can I trust you with your own? How can I trust you how can I trust you with something of your own if I can't trust you with somebody else's?
Absolutely.
So I'm like, you know what? No, God, like, this is ours. This is it. And I believe that was like the heart that God wanted so he can propel me. So when I get to Chicago, I understand, like, God, you're the one that brought me here. Through this process, you taught me, and you're the one that launched me out here.
And, you can tell that you took care of the people that you served. You took care of those things well because how well you take care of the things you have now. Like, it's the spirit of excellence. I really loved when I went to Chicago and I seen the excellence, how you really were, pursuing to do it with all of your heart. I mean, all the locations you took me to, and I was blown away. I said, man, how is he doing this with so few resources? And it's like, my Lord, I mean, God has blessed you guys tremendously. I mean, what's going on in Chicago is a supernatural act of God, because I've never seen something provided for in such a way, in such a plentiful way, the way it is in Chicago for anyone, ever.
When you said that to us on the car, I'm like, it was a shift. I'm like, dang, God, it's been you all the way. God told me that. Remember, I was telling you, God was like, I've been with you the whole time, Joe.
Yeah.
When you showed me your lens, your perspective, I'm like, dang, I've been missing it the whole time.
Bro, guys, you guys are doing some phenomenal work with little. And when God blesses you and trusts you with the things he's trusted you with, and you've stewarded them so well, man, that's why God has blessed you with that humongous building over there in East Chicago. And that's why God is entrusting you with people, businessmen, and people that believe in you. And he's entrusting you with a vision so clear. That's why you fought for it so long. I'm so amazed by what's going on. I'm really grateful to just be able to even sit down with you, man, and talk. I was like, you know what? He's in town. There's no way I'm going to let him get away without interviewing him, asking him a few questions. If you had one core thing that you live by in leadership, what would that one thing be, you'd say?
There's a couple, but the first one that comes to mind is that don't be afraid to get discipled, or don't be afraid to get around men that can take you to another level. Association, what happens is what's on them rubs off on you. And if you are tough, like as far as not get emotional, or when they tell you things that you're not doing correct, or things that not to make you feel bad, but just things that can help you go to another level, and principles and things that say, hey, you know what, Joe, maybe you should do it like this. I see it, but Joe, do it like this. Watch, just check it out. That has taken me far. And I believe that in the body of Christ, I believe that us men are scared to get discipled or just to submit. The level of surrender, right, is the level of discipleship that God can do in your life. And if we are not willing to do that, that's as far as we can go.
Hold on, bro. Say that again. That's good.
Okay.
The level of surrender determines how far you can go.
In the discipleship of God in your life.
Oh my gosh. So good.
It's really
so
God
good.
discipling you.
Yes.
It's really him. But he's using the people and the resources and the church around you, but it's him using that. And the level of surrender is the level of discipleship level that you're at with God.
My God, I know it's simple, and some of you guys may be online right now, some of you ladies may be like, oh, that was basic. But for me, emoji with the brains blew out. That's what just happened. The level of surrender, I've never heard it said like that, but that's key. I agree, because once you put up that stiff neck, or you put up that, you start waving that finger in the air, or shaking your fist in the face of God and saying, I will not do fill in the blank, that is when growth stops. That's true.
Or I won't share this about me, or I won't let the leaders, hey, I'm a part of my life in this area. And that's where it stops.
Yeah, because you give that area of your life to God through discipleship, because he used people, and you just say, nah, not this area, I want to hold on to that. And that's the area where you stop right there.
In other words, like inviting Jesus to your house and exposing everything. He said, here, Jesus is everything. Here's the books, here's the finances, here's my principles, here's what I'm reading, here's how I run my home. And it's like everything. So if I just do it this area, then that's the level of discipleship where I'm at. But if I do it in this other areas, then that's the level of discipleship where I'm at. And so we can't be afraid, especially of men or people that really want to see you succeed. They want to see you ahead.
It's so good.
And the people that want to see you ahead, they don't hold back. Like, they tell you, like, hey, this is probably, hey, Joe, maybe you shouldn't do that, do this. And don't get mad at them. Don't get like, they're not the enemy. No, they're not there to embarrass. They're there to lead you. They're there to take you to another level.
Man, that's so good, because I really think that we hear the word discipleship. We know how we were discipled for years. But that word is it's a buzzword right now, but it's so misconstrued, or people have a misunderstanding of what that word means. Like, you could ask 10 people what discipleship means, and they probably would all have different definitions. Now, I'm not for sure if Jesus desired for us to have, I don't know if he desired for us to have different definitions of discipleship. And now for me, I look in the Word of God, I see what Jesus done with his 12, and that's discipleship for me. I see what Paul did with Timothy, that's discipleship for me. But in this day and time, as a leader, do you find yourself struggling with finding people that are really willing to surrender and be discipled and go through that process?
Yes. Yeah, it's like wanting to get deep information from God, but not deep like revelation or a genuineness with your character with him.
Oh my.
So information is not character.
Oh my, you had to bring that word up, character. Come on.
Yeah, so you know, like my dad, when I moved with my dad, when I was 13 years old, when I moved with my father, and man, my dad worked on my character. It wasn't like, nah, hey son, you got to get up, let's go. I did my homework. I was, cleaning. Because he put character inside of me.
That's what a real father gonna do.
Yeah. So I couldn't get away with just anything, and so I didn't have the information. Now it became real from a teenager to a young adult. Like, that's what he was trying to coach me, and it was a hard transition.
Okay. Yes.
A hard transition. So now, information from God, I want to read these books, go to these conferences, experience all this greatness of God, but my character, I don't do anything to work with this character. Yeah. Then that's where the discipleship comes. And I believe that the character is going to take you to a whole nother level, not just in Christianity, but in your life.
Yes. Information with no application leads to no transformation. Many times people...
preacher.
Well, you know I'm a preacher.
That's good.
But information with no application, and the gap between information and application is character. The character defects hinders me or hinders whoever from applying the information they know, so no transformation. And so pushing or challenging or making it appealing or attractive for someone to want to apply in this day and age, it seems like people look and see as if they're going to lose out by applying God's word. They're going to miss out on something. Oh, if I have to wait to get married, like I'm going to suffer. Oh, if I have to, do it the right way. It's like, okay, hold on. You're not going to lose out. You're actually going to gain. It's going to equal transformation. But when you're on the other side of application, you can't see the transformation, so it takes some type of trust, and that's the character issue.
That's the character.
Gosh.
One of the things I had to learn in the middle of all that is to believe that God really had his best for me, that God was really going to look out for me. That was like one of the things that, like, you know what, this is hard, but God, you're doing this because you're making me better. You want to bless me, and you want me to take care of this blessing, where this blessing doesn't ruin me. This blessing really uplifts, and this blessing turns into so much where it blesses others now. Yes. So, just believing in that. I believe this: if the training is hard, the better the outcome, right? The better the quality.
Yes.
So, what kind of quality, a disciple, quality character, the quality of man of God do I want to be? Yeah. And it comes with the level of discipleship and the level of surrender. That's
so good. I mean, we could talk about that day in and day out. And I noticed that there is a challenge in discipleship. And one of the things I remember Pastor Gerald said, he said, we got to find a way to make Jesus attractive again. He used to say that, and I used to always wonder, and now that we're in this season where we're seeing revival break out, all over the world in the last few months or so with the ZGN. And I'm so happy because it's so important for the next generation to catch this. And there was a season, I must say, that the ZGN had done nothing to offend me whatsoever. But I was just wondering my relevancy of reaching them and how I would be able to reach them. And God said, whether you reach them or not, I'm going to reach them. And that really blessed me because my heart is broken because I was a youth pastor for about 3 years. Yeah. And so I love students, man, the next generation. I love them. And so in this season, it was really encouraging for me because I know that God, he hasn't let us down. He hasn't forgotten about us. And I think that is the enemy. You talked about it a little earlier about, do God have my best interest at heart? Like all of this that he's doing, does he have my best interest at heart? Sometimes, like that's the enemy's biggest tool against us. That's what he used with Adam and Eve. He said, hey man, did God really say? Yeah. And he was saying like, do God really got your best interest at heart? If he did, he would let you eat all of these trees, including the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And he's been playing that game with us, humans, for years. What do you say to a person out there that's struggling, that they may be in the middle of a battle and they can't see that God has their best interest in their heart, and they're having to lead their family, they're having to lead their marriage, their children, their startup business, their company, their church? What do you say to a leader that's right there at a phase in their life where they just don't know what's going on, and God, what are you up to?
Yeah, that wilderness season, right? The season of your faith getting stretched and just God taking you to a deeper level with him and with yourself. I would say don't quit. If like when I see Billy, I'm like, man, I see God's glory. Like I see where God has blessed him and where God has taken him and what God has given him.
That's generous. Thank you.
But I also see some of the process that he had to go through. And I'm like, dang, you know what? He did it. I know God's not gonna leave me hanging if I do it too. He went through the process. And I believe that if I go through some, the process of like that, of doing it God's way, genuinely, not being fake about it, not just God, and all these feelings, like if you got spiritual leaders, they'll keep it down a notch. They'll bring you back to reality. Yeah, what I'm saying? A spiritual reality, right? Physical common sense and spiritual common sense. Yeah, they'll bring you some spiritual common sense to it, and they'll keep you straight, doing it God's way. That if you genuinely go through that process, you become a genuine disciple and on fire for God for the long haul. It's not for the short term you become the real deal for the longevity, not just short-lived. You're not like a little fuse that just, no, you're on fire you're like a torch and you're just on fire for the long haul. That's what we want to be. But during those places where your faith is getting stretched, that's developed. So you got to know that. Like the hard times, that's the anointing times. That's where the God's presence times. That's where you face yourself. You face every part of yourself. That's where it's faced in those dark times. The lust, the jealousy, the anger, the outrage, the temper. I can't, distrust. I don't trust people. You start to trust people differently now. Like, you know what? I'm going to trust them until I can't. And if I can't trust them, no worries. I'm not going to be mad and, I got my heart broke again. Well, how many times did Jesus get his heart broke? But it said that Jesus learned obedience by the things he suffered. And so how are we going to learn these? So how are we going to learn these things? Like that's how you learn them. God. So during those those are the anointed phases. Those are the blessing phases. Those are like the phases that are going to take you to a different level. I want to be a boss in God. Okay, well, you ask for it. Like a lot of times the people are in those phases because they ask God, make me great, and I want to be big, and I want to do this. Yeah. Well, then don't ask God for that.
Yeah, those prayers are dangerous. Those are very dangerous prayers. I remember praying to God, and I said, God, just teach me to operate in humility. And you know what, that whole day I was just being crushed by every little thing, everything it seemed like everything that was coming my way was just to crush me. Like it was just affecting me. And then later that night, I remember my prayer that morning and I had asked for it and I didn't respond too well at all. I responded out of pride. And I don't know if I was even ready for that prayer. So you're right, when you're praying certain things.
Yeah, and sometimes you think about it, if God's taking me to this place, that I really pray for it.
Yeah.
In a high moment, God's glory and revival broke out. God, make me good. Like that, I want to do that too. Well, and we asked him, and God didn't forget, even though we did, Yeah. And he said, no, I've been waiting for somebody to ask me for this. Man, I got somebody I can go deep with. Let's go. And then he goes there and it's like, oh, wait a minute, God. And then we have to trust him in those processes. That's where genuine trust comes from. That's where you really learn to trust God. In those places like that, like uncertainty. I'm doing it right, but it's not working out. I'm going to continue to do it right anyway because I just know that I love God and I know that I want to be genuine with God. I don't want to break God's heart. And so you do that and then God just turns. It's like almost overnight, he just turns things around for you. Like at the weakest, you're at your wit's end. And then he says, this is the breaking point for him. I got to move for Joe now. Boom. And then he just does it.
My God. So. And you know what? When you say that, you say it with so much authenticity and you say it with so much passion that this is not information for you. It's obvious. You've actually pressed through some times of uncertainty. You've actually had experiences where you didn't know if God was going to come through. And those are the type of people that I love to have on the podcast with Leading Through with Billy Island. And one of the things that I know for sure, because I know this man and I could talk to him all day long. But what I want you to do, it would mean the world to me. As we close this up, I want you to rate, review, share, leave a comment, and go ahead and make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you can be getting all the notifications when we send out our podcast. And we put them out the first Tuesday of every month, Leading Through with Billy Island. We have Jojo Gonzalez, and I thank you so much for your time. This was so amazing, so rich of a conversation. You're probably going to have to listen to this a couple times to unpack all the things he just said. God bless you. And remember, you just need to keep it real, because when you keep it real, often that seals the deal.